In this assignment, I create a line drawing with soft and hard surfaces. I use different tools to create the lines in Illustrator. The demo will be quite complex. You don't need to use as many techniques as I on the assignment. I start with a sketch in Photoshop. You should make the sketch as well as possible. Think about line weights while drawing. I select the sketch in Photoshop and paste it into a new file in Illustrator. I then rotate the sketch so that it has horizontal and vertical lines. This makes it easier to draw these. I'll then create a new oval-shaped art brush and then start drawing with it to a new layer, locking the reference layer. I use the oval brush for the soft surfaces. For the hard surfaces I use the form tools and the pen tool. I need to edit the ovals so that they appear to be in perspective. I sometimes use forms with white fills, so that I don't need to tidy the intersecting lines. I use copies of elements as much as possible. I sometimes use the scissor tools to cut the paths. I could also add anchor points and delete some paths. It is handy when I want to define profile strokes. I create the organic forms with a pencil tool or with a paintbrush tool. My sketch was a bit too loose on the rope. I use the profile line, the oval art brush, and the pressure sensitivity brush. I try different kind of cross-hatching on the shadows. On the clock I once again use the oval tool and the boat profile. I fix the bars on the helmets. Next I create the pattern brush for the chain. I first create a part of the chain, a half link, a middle link, and another half link. I first tried to use the pathfinder, but it wasn't handy on this occasion. I ended up adding anchor points and removing paths. I create a pattern brush from the shape, but the strokes are too thin. I edit the original and creates a new pattern brush. I change the profile of the pattern stroke a bit with the width tool. I add organics with a pressure sensitive paintbrush. I also create a pattern brush for the tube. On this form I use the corner smoothing with a white arrow. Again I create a part of the pattern and then tell it to become a pattern brush. I then edit it a bit with the width tool. Next I'll create some cross-hatching with a blend feature. I first create two lines and make them blend. I make the other line thinner. I didn't get the lines to fit inside the form, so I'll create a clipping mask. I copy the form and paste it on top, and use this form as a clipping mask for the blend group. I select the copy area and the blend group. Select both of them and right-click Make Clipping Mask. I'll make a similar thing with the helmets. I first copy the blend group and set it on top of the helmets. I make the blend group invisible. I'll then draw a new form that will be the clipping mask. This is only on the area of the actual helmets. Then I can select this new form and the blend group, right-click and make clipping mask. The blend group only shows inside the area I just draw. I use the same method in some of the other forms. On the helmets, I want to make the cross-hatching more complex. I go inside the clipping mask with the cross-hatching by double-clicking on it. When I'm now inside the clipping mask, I copy the blend group and edit and rotate it. You can see from the second row that you're inside the clipping group. I made this new blend white, so it looks like it's cutting the black forms. Because I'm inside the clip group, the blend doesn't show outside it. I exit the clipping group by double-clicking on an empty space. I create a similar form inside the tank clip group. Black blend lines with white blend lines on top. I use white patches if I need them. Next I'll create some bubbles with a pattern brush. But I cannot create a nice pattern brush without the bubbles distorting too much. I decide to do all the bubbles by copying. I continue on editing the image all around. I create black shadow shapes with a pen. Next I'll create new forms with the blob brush and the eraser brush. I create this on its own layer so that it's easier for me to edit. I also add the pressure sensitivity to the eraser tool by double-clicking on the eraser tool. Now the painting is really similar to Photoshop painting. Some of the forms are easier done with a pen tool. I want to edit the end of the chain, so it cannot be anymore in the pattern brush mode. I free it by selecting the chain and clicking on Object Expand Appearance. I decide I want some of the blends to be three-phased. There is thin line on the center and thick lines on the sides. I go inside the blend group by double-clicking. I then release the blend, edit the strokes, and make the blend again. I change all the bubbles to have a profile line, making it more organic. I also edit the shapes of the bubbles. I add some weight to the drawing here and there. I add some cast shadows to underline the direction of the lights. Now my line drawing is ready. Mission accomplished. Now I'll change the line drawing to be a one black form. There are many steps to this, you don't necessarily need to do this. I first change the blends to become forms. I select them and click on Object Expand Appearance. I then change them to be forms, Object Path Outline Stroke. Then I'll make a compound path of these forms, Object Compound Path Make. After this I can minus front the whites from the blacks. Now that I have the lines inside the clipping mask as one form, I select the clipping mask and the forms inside and select Trim from the Pathfinder. This removes the extra bits. I do the same with all of the blends. After this, I select all of the lines and make them forms. Select same stroke color and Object Path Outline Stroke. I remove the forms on top of each other by selecting all and clicking on Trim. Now I need to remove all the white shapes. I select a white shape and select same fill color. Then I can delete these and continue to removing the empty forms. This is easiest done by creating a form and removing the stroke and the fill. Then clicking on Select Same Fill Color and pressing on Delete. When all of this is done, I can select all of the lines and press Unite on the Pathfinder. After these many steps, I don't have any lines anymore, only a black fill area. I'll make a background color and some decorations for this. But remember that the goal was to create the line drawing.